from that particular time when I was an apprentice, I decided, you know what? I think this is for me. I always had this idea in the back of my mind that working in customs brokerage, as in doing the customs entry declaration, I always saw that to be the gateway to my success. For whatever reason, sometimes when you don't really understand certain things, but you just know there's something a little bit more important. I saw that as the most important part of the import logistics services at that time. And I just followed my passion. Some people would say, what? You followed the passion into doing customs brokerage? Yeah, because I went from the accounts, I went into the general imports, various operational stuff, but then I saw the magic was going to be in the customs brokerage because...
Welcome back to the Logistics Legends podcast, where we honor the pioneers, the rule breakers, the visionaries who didn't just grow a logistics company or network, they shifted the entire industry of our global supply chain. At Signature Global Network, we're proud to be a network of leaders, leading leaders, not just moving goods, but moving minds. We care deeply about the people behind the business, the thinkers, the builders, the legacy makers. Today's guest is one of those real minds, a true cross-border genius before cross-border was even cool. He built a 23-year journey that redefined excellence in customs clearance and cross-border e-commerce. He's a founder, mentor, chairman, innovator, but more importantly, he's someone who's still thinking about how to raise the next generation of leadership in this space. Please welcome the legend, the gentleman, the industry's creative spirit, Rudee Bertie. All right, round of applause.
What an intro. Thank you very much, Christy. What an intro, man. Hello, and how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks, Rudee. Thank you once again for joining us. Let's start at the very beginning, Rudee. Before the global titles, before the boardrooms, who was Rudee Bertie as a young dreamer? What was that early fire that made you commit to the world of logistics?
Now, that's a big question. And, these big questions always takes you down a path, takes you down memory lane. And probably my earliest recollection of why I got into the world of logistics is when I started off as an apprentice in a company. It was called Meadows Air Freight, which was then back in Heathrow Airport. And I kind of moved around the company. I started off in accounts, and then I went into the import department. Then I went into the import consolidation department. Then they put me into the entries department. So I had kind of like a feel of various departments within, mainly in imports, really. And from that particular time when I was an apprentice, I decided, you know what? I think this is for me. I always had this idea in the back of my mind that working in customs brokerage, as in doing the customs entry declaration, I always saw that to be the gateway to my success. For whatever reason, sometimes when you don't really understand certain things, but you just know there's something a little bit more important. I saw that as the most important part of the import logistics services at that time, right? And I just followed my passion. I know some people would say, what? You followed the passion into doing customs brokerage at such an early age. But yeah, because I went from the accounts, I went into the general imports, I went into, various operational stuff, but then I saw the magic was going to be in the customs brokerage because that's the border, right? You can't cross the border without actually doing that customs entry declaration. And yeah, so that's my earliest recollection. And that really pushed me into doing what I was doing.
I love the story. And for those who haven't read the book, remember, you can go to Amazon or anywhere to find out the book, because Rudee's journey was written for the most of the book. Someone said to me, oh, it's half the book is by Rudee. But find out the book and read it. You will find more story about Rudee. It's such an amazing journey. So thank you, Rudee, for sharing that question. The next question I have for you, right? You found CCL, right? It's a rebel move.
Yeah.
You founded Custom Clearance Ltd back in 1999, way before cross-border e-commerce became a buzzword. What was the hardest part of building trust globally at a time when digital logistics wasn't even fully evolved?
Right, today, people have the benefit today of having, what we're doing now, having meetings online, etc., video calls. Yes, we had conference calls, but it wasn't video conference calls. It was dial-up conference calls, and you had to pay for it as well, right? So it just made sense for us to build up the trust. I think you had to go and sit in front of your potential customer, right? So your potential prospect, you had to know who that person was and how that worked for us. Okay, so you had customers, but most of my customers were like UK or European based. But in order for me to actually go global and to have global customers, I had to globalize the situation. So we had to go on networking events, network meetings, right? So yeah, obviously like Signature, how you put these events together. This is really how I started to grow my networking experiences, and I would say for me, networking is one of my superpowers. Right? If you like to be in front of people and in and amongst it on the front line, and you're not afraid to showcase who you are and what your business is all about, networking's for you, right? And for me, it was always the highlight when I had to pack up my bags, jump on an airplane with all my business cards and my portfolio of flyers and my presentations to represent the business. I knew that would build up the trust, because you can't just go to one network and then disappear for 4 years, right? So once you're on that networking scene, to build up the trust, then you go to the next one, then you go to the next one. But I'm not saying to go to every single event. You have to go to the events that make sense for you. So if it made sense for me to go to certain particular events. And yeah, so very early on, even before, what was the word? Like, did you call it cross-border?
Yeah.
What was the word you used?
Yeah.
Right. So even before we knew what it was even called cross-border,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously international, global, whatever you want to call it, being a cross-border specialist meant that I could build up the trust with my networking partners, not necessarily for me to win business from them, but it was more important for me to build up relationships so they could help me support my business going forward.
I love that, Rudee. And you mentioned something very significant, particularly as network owner, and you also own another one called NEX. For those who are not aware, it's an e-commerce network. You're right. People sometimes are too curious, just jump in one networking, then they just go and leave into another one, keep changing. They're not committed to something. When you choose something, I think it's important to commit to it. And you shared earlier, that was a very valuable point.
Yeah, because what you find is sometimes you could go to, if it's your first experience going to a networking event, you could become very overwhelmed with it, right? Whether it's a smaller event or a larger event, because you might be the only person there. It might be your first time, but then the perception is you're looking around and you believe that everyone else there, they've been there like many times, and everyone else knows everybody, and everybody else are friends, and everybody else are in these groups, and they're clicking, and you're the one on the outside. But that's not necessarily the case, because the odds are that you and probably half of the people in that room, it might even be their first time as well. Like everybody, everyone has different personalities, right? And if you could walk into a room and you can embrace what's going on in front of you and take advantage of the opportunity, and the opportunity to me in that particular situation is getting to know the people. Because if you get to know the people, you'll get to understand the people. You get to understand the people, you're going to get to know their business, and you're going to get to know whether their business suits you, and you're going to be a right business partner for them. Now, you may not be the right business partner, but at the same time, if you're drawn to people and they're drawn to you, then you could become friends, right? You build up relationships. And what do friends do? They refer you to somebody else.
Yes.
And to me, that's probably word of mouth referral, right? Or referral from one friend to another friend is probably the most powerful way of networking, because it means that they trust you enough to be able to refer you to someone else that they trust. right? So I'm not going to refer you to someone that I don't trust, because I'm going to break my trust, or you're going to say, why have you referred me to that person?
Yes.
And that's going to break the trust between us, right?
Very true. Very true, Rudee. And you're right. Sometimes when I need to refer someone, you have kind of like invisible pressure on your shoulder, because if you do that, if you did something wrong, they're gonna come back to you. Why'd you get me to marry with this guy? My life is ruined because of you, right? It can happen like that. It just feels
It's
like
all
that.
your fault.
It feels like that. All right. So the next question is, over 23 years, CCL went through major transformations. How did you personally evolve as a leader from founder to a globally respected benchmark in the space?
I was just about to say it's simple, but it's not really simple. But when you're in the moment, you just do what you have to do, right? So remember I told you when I first started my first apprenticeship. So I started in this company called Meadows Airfreight at Heathrow Airport. And after leaving that business, I was involved in most imports in the logistics industry. Obviously, everyone touches imports, exports, and you do air, ocean, whatever. But I was drawn more into imports, but more into air imports, right? So what happens is, once you're drawn into air, especially in an international airport like Heathrow, you get involved in express courier, right? As well as regular general cargo, right? You get involved in MIB, which is merchandise and baggage. MIB's is situation like you walk into the terminal, into the red green channel, and goods to declare, goods not to declare, the red and the green, right? So you get involved in all that type of stuff. And when this something called e-commerce landed on my desk, and I saw the opportunity, right? It was a situation with my business partner at the time. We said, oh, this is just like doing express courier, right? It's like a hybrid between express. So the e-commerce thing for us, which was the boom, if you want, that took the company from here to here. We kind of like realized it's a faster version of post, but it's a slower version of express courier. So it's a hybrid of the two. And the model was a hybrid, but also the cost model was a hybrid, but it was built on volume, right? And so we realized we're onto something here. So then what we did was we actually pivoted the business and we changed the model, right? So instead of just having your model of clearing or handling B2B general cargo, we changed the model and we handled B2B to C or B2C, which is now called e-commerce, right?
Yeah.
And that's the trajectory of the business. That's how we took it from here to here to here to here. And really and truly, when I said it was simple, really, it's easy. It wasn't really that simple, because at that particular time, nobody really understood how to handle the business. Even the authorities were still looking at it as being mail order, right? So when we're clearing consignments through customs, and maybe we're clearing 10,000 consignments a one master airway bill, for argument's sake, right? The authorities couldn't keep up with the clearance because their mindset was still stuck on mail order, 21 days, right? Clearance, or 21 days for delivery. So what they were looking at, okay, so you've cleared it, the goods must be still here somewhere. So if we need to look at something, we still have time to look. But with us, we cleared it, it was out the door, bang, out for delivery. Wow. And then we just built up a business and a reputation of being the number one gateway provider of cross-border e-commerce, right? So businesses around, again, with the networking, we would go out to networking events, and we'd approach business to support our business. So, for example, if I had a good customer in the USA that were now looking for the same solution coming out of the US, and they wanted that same solution out of Bangkok or Vietnam or Hong Kong, for etc., we'll find the agent in that particular country to replicate what we do, right? And then we'll link up as an agent.
It's amazing.
And we'll win business together.
Yeah.
See?
What a history. Guys, when you're listening to this, right? Rudee started like, I
Yeah,
remember fax machine time.
yeah. Because the thing is, well, you have to put the work in, because a lot of this stuff wasn't even in place. So, like manifest, how we got digital manifest now, that wasn't in place. There was digitized solutions, but which was the fax machine, right? So with the manifest, you literally had to type it up, right, on maybe like a typewriter or on your computer, print it out, and then you had to send it through the fax machine.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, we received a pre-alert that
That's
we're
interesting.
categorizing the facts. So you're basically deconsolidating, like in principle, the actual consignment.
Yes.
And you're working out what's due tax, what's not due tax, what's for first delivery, what's for a 9 a.m. delivery, what's for a regular delivery. So you have to understand what's coming in to what's going out first, and the priority of clearance, who owes money, who doesn't owe money. And to what's today, I would like to think that we kind of started, so we pioneered that whole functionality and seamless type of customs clearance with what is called e-commerce today, because nothing was in place for all this kind of stuff. We had to put it in place. I had one particular customer, again at a networking event, and this is just like one example. One of the guys said, "Look, after dinner, I need to have a talk with you. Something's landed on my desk. It's called e-commerce. Never heard of it. Don't know what it is, but I heard you guys can take care of it for us." Right? With that, was handed a business card, and I would say that was in probably 2008. And that business is still with the company, still with CCL today.
Wow.
Right? So that's, to me, that's legacy right there.
Amazing.
And this company now, they're branded worldwide, right? Nice. You know them. Yeah, they're worldwide. Mention the name, everyone knows them. Okay. And they built their foundation on our foundation, right? And my philosophy, I just worked in them as an account, right? Just worked and said, right, you need to do this, and this, guided, supported, and today, their model has been replicated by other big brand, big name companies, household names.
Wow.
Right. So, this is where we're coming from.
Yeah, when you're listening to this, you're actually also taking a history class because, and we disclosed our age when I always talking about the BB core machine back then. It's beep beep, and you have to return a call, something like fax machine stuff. You have to call back. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah. For those who are their generation Z or Alpha, or you have never heard of this kind of stuff, you can Google, you can search all this information about what fax machine is. But thank you for sharing, yeah. Rudee. The next question I have for you is...
Just tell them that fax machine is a short name for facsimile.
Wow.
That's the real name, facsimile. Right?
I even didn't know that.
Remember that. Well, it's because it's so hard to say, so it's shortened for fax.
See, another knowledge learned.
There you go.
Thank you. The next question I have for you is related to personal philosophy of growth. What do you believe are the 3 key inner traits every logistics entrepreneur needs today, especially if they want to not just succeed, but thrive in the high stakes, high pressure industry?
I think you have to be a good listener, and you have to be a good learner. And what comes with that, you have to be able to, what you've listened to, what you've learned, now you have to be able to advise, right? So if you can advise individuals, organizations, how to move forward, then I think that makes you a good leader today, right? Because think about it. Everybody thinks they're right. When I say everyone thinks they're right, you have to come up with some kind of idea to believe, okay, this is my idea, until someone else comes and say, well, actually, I disagree, right? So if you disagree, you have to tell me why you disagree. Otherwise, I'm right. So you tell me why you disagree with what I'm saying. So I'm listening to that, right? And at that point, I'm thinking, okay, you got me. That makes sense. I understand. And so it helps me to adjust my thinking, right? To align more with your thinking. So with my thinking and your thinking, that makes me like a strong thinker, right? So my thought process now is like, it's more solid than when I first started the conversation, because now I've listened to what you've had to say.
Yeah.
Right. So by me listening to what you have to say, now I'm teaching that to others. So now they got the benefit of your mind and my mind in one conversation. So now I could then go forward and teach that third person what I've just learned.
Yes.
And then now I've taught that person what I've learned. So that's me being a good teacher to pass on. And now I could advise on it, because now that third person which I've taught, they've now come back to me and say, yeah, I agree or I disagree. And I can adjust what we've been talking about. Now I could then go on, and now I've got more confidence in what my original thought process was and my original idea. So now I've got more confidence because I've actually aired it with 2 or 3 people. So now I'm advising somebody totally outside of that conversation, and I'm confident that my advice is sound, my advice is solid, right? And if you can advise and people, they could open up and listen to what you're talking about, and they can action on what you've advised, then that's a good leader.
Wow. I love that.
In my opinion.
I love that, Rudee.
But that's my opinion.
I just checked, so I'm a good leader. All right. Just but seriously, thank you so much for the feedback, because I've interviewed many CEOs, and the last episode I interviewed WCA David, and you guys are very, very much sharing the same insight, and it's all about listening, which is amazing. And he also mentioned something similar, that talking about you need people, right? You need to learn from people. And the same thing, like you'll be surprised when you sit down with leaders and we never talk to each other. They never talk to each other. But when you ask questions, they come up with the same thing, because they have the same kind of sense of value, and what they're doing that works. And there's the same formula, but it's not, it's easy to know. It's hard to do.
No, exactly. But imagine that, what you just said there, imagine, right? So I believe it is all about people, because without people, you have no business. I don't care what anybody says. You could be AI, you could be the most intelligent robot, but feed in, feed out, right? So what you feed into the robot, you feed out. But people still feeding in, feeding out. Maybe in 20, 30 years or whatever, maybe when I'm not around, this whole conversation might be dead. It might be, a robot might be running the whole universe. Who knows, right? But my point is, in regards with people, it's, if you don't look after the people, they don't look after the business. And if you don't look after the business, it doesn't look after you, right? So you have to, there's no point me undermining every supervisor, every manager, right? They need to take ownership in their role. Otherwise, they're not a supervisor, they're not a manager, right? They're not a director. They need to take ownership. There's no point me undermining your every move, because then what's the point? Right? You need to empower the people to make a difference, because you want them to be leaders. You want to breed a team of leaders. You don't want to breed a team of followers.
Yes.
Because if they have to, if it's a team of followers, they can't turn left or right without they saying,
you're there. Yeah.
Hey, Rudee, what time do I go? Or do I turn left or right? Yes. Is it okay? Do I have your approval? What's the point? There's no point. You might as well do it yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So it is all about people. You need to empower people. Without people are the foundation. Right. So you have to trust in the people. You have to believe in your people. Right. And you have to empower your people. Otherwise, what's the point?
Very good, Rudee. And I just finished a live today.
You know a guy out there. Sorry to cut you there. You know a guy out there. His name is Richard Branson, right?
Yeah.
This guy started off selling matches. Matches, like,
yeah.
to light fire. And his office was a telephone box. So when he was making when people were making orders, they would call into the telephone box down the road from his house, right? And they'll put the orders in. That was obviously his meeting place as well, right? So the meeting place, the telephone box, was his place of work.
Yeah.
Now look at him now today, right?
Yeah,
I think it's matches, right? But you need to look that up. So if it's not matches, you need to cut this out, and it never happened, right? But my point is, he is a guy who, look at what he's doing today. If he stood behind everybody and he kind of like undermined every single person that he brought in, then he wouldn't be the guy that he's today. You would never hear of Richard Branson. You'd definitely never hear of Virgin.
Yes.
Understand what I mean?
Agree. Yeah, it's the similarity of stories, which really fascinating when you share that, because when you say empowering people and everything. Coincidentally, this morning, I actually had a live for talking about how to run a business without running in it, and be like how to run it without you. And exactly aligned with you just shared, that you don't want to be an operator, you want to be a leader. You just empower your people and they can do the job, so that you can then be hands-free to do something else. And you are the visionary, not the one who actually like turning left, right, and you actually operating the thing. Then what's the point you hire people? And Steve Jobs said, you just need to hire people who are smarter than you. If you don't hire people who are smarter than you, there's no point, right? You can't succeed.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
No, 100%. You have to be able to you have to be strong enough to delegate, right? Because if you're not, you're going to be hands-on, head down. You're not going to be able to see around you, tunnel vision. You're not going to be in control of the business. And that takes me to another point, like just diverting back to networking. I remember when I first started networking, I always used to, between my meetings, I always used to go and check my phone or check my laptop to see if I had any messages. And I was in this particular meeting, and this one gentleman said to me, he said, Rudee, I don't mean to get into your business, but he said, are you running your business, or is your business running you? And I was like, what do you mean? He said, well, every 5 you just checking messages, can't your business run? Can't it be without you being there? And I said, yeah. He said, well, so leave your messages alone. It could wait. You know what I mean? And so that kind of, it just played on my mind until I got all the way back home, got back into the office. Then the first thing which I did was I said, look, when I'm at the office, don't contact me. It has to be an emergency. You guys do it. Do what you have to do. And to delegate something, an important task, which I feel at the time was important, it's not really that important. Somebody else could do it. And if they make a mistake, they need to know how to repair that mistake. They need to know how to fix it. They can't be relying on me or the other senior managers, so we made some decisions, like, and it's tough to delegate certain roles, stuff that you've always done yourself. And I might as well do it myself. You just have to, you got to grit your teeth and watch painful. It unfold in front of you, and let people find a solution to their own mistakes.
You have to allow.
You can't correct everything around you.
That's right.
And now, from then to now, they call me the delegate king, because I delegate everything. You know what I mean? Which is sometimes is a good thing, sometimes is a bad thing, right? But at the end of the day, what it means is that you trust in other people to do what you would expect to do yourself. I suppose that's the best way.
So true.
Yeah.
I think, Rudee, you also need to watch the live I did this morning, because we're talking about pretty much the same thing. We didn't even align before that, but you need to watch that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. Now, I have a few more questions here. The next question, Rudee, is what's your mental framework for thinking outside the box? How do you spark innovation when things start to feel routine, especially in an industry that can feel very process heavy?
I don't think I look at it like that. I think I've always been, I wouldn't say like an innovator, but I've always been, maybe there's something extra that we can add, right? So if there's already a one solution which is working fine, I've always kind of been that person. It might be working too good, right? And then someone else is going to replicate what we're doing, and they're going to compete for the business. They'll probably do it for undercut the price and then make it a bit more competitive and make it harder for me to retain that client. So it's always about, okay, trying to keep one step ahead of the competition, doing something slightly different, right? So even if it's, for example, moving some freight from Manchester to New York, for argument's sake, I want to move that freight the best way, right? With my brand on it, right? To make sure that that customer remembers how that freight moved from Manchester to New York. So it could be, hey, Jerry, how you doing? Yeah, you know that freight that, yeah, we just picked up, it's en route. I really didn't have to tell me about that. Yeah, well, I just wanted to chat to you anyway. You know, what are you doing later on? How's the family? You know, so really and truly, I'm not really talking about the business. I'm talking to him.
Yes.
Right. So when he puts that phone down, he's gonna know, right, that I'm thinking about him and his business.
Yes.
You see what I mean? So just try to add some slight differences to the norm, I suppose, because normal is normal, right? Moving from A to B is moving from A to B. There's nothing special about it. But when you can add your own little characteristics and add your own little touchy brand to something, that makes a difference because it keeps you in mind.
Yeah.
And if there was a problem, then it'll be like, don't matter, let me call Rude because he's on it. So if there's a problem, it's going to be fixed immediately. And even if there is no problem and it's delivered, then you get the phone call or you get the message saying, thank you very much. You see what I mean? Yeah. Now, to me, that goes a long way because what I said earlier was referral, right? Self-referral. So if I'm referring you from one friend, one relationship to the next, that's the most powerful referral you can ever get. So that's an endorsement within itself. Yeah. Sometimes I would get like, and I know this because the proof will be in the testament, right? Because sometimes I'll be like, oh, use this guy. You know what I mean? They're brilliant, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he's not you. And I'll be, yeah, but he's brilliant. I'm telling you. You know what I mean? Right? And so for me saying this guy's brilliant, and then for this guy to say, well, he's not you, to me, that's like, my head could have gone, you know what I mean? But to me, that just validates what I'm saying. Because I'm not going to refer you to somebody which I don't think is good enough for you.
True.
Right? So everybody has their standards. Right? So I would expect that person to do what I would do to support his or her business.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Treat others as how you want to be treated. That's the whole rule. And
that's the one. Yeah.
I love that. So to conclude your mental framework of thinking outside the box, I think it's just like when you look at the street, everybody's wearing red and suddenly Rudee jump in with black because man in black. And that's pretty much like you're still like they're all men outside there. They're all humans, but then suddenly someone's wearing something different. Like a little bit difference makes the difference. I think that's a very interesting thinking that you don't have to be completely different. Once you see the others are doing something right, it's good, but then you can add a little bit flavor. When you cook a new dish, you have to learn first of all to cook the basic dish by following the thing, and then once it's successful, you can then add other flavors on top of it.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel, as to say, right? The wheel is always going to be turning. So if you reinvent the wheel, how are you going to reinvent it? You just need to enhance it. You just need to maintain it. You just need to nurture it.
Color it. Right? Change another color.
You just need to look after it. Yeah, you need to color it black. Right? So,
back to Rudee's color again. All right. Thank you, Rudee. Next question I have for you is, you've always believed in people first leadership. Can you share a moment where human connection helped you win more than any commercial deal ever could? I know you have a lot of examples. Just share one amazing story so that people can understand how important it is people before profits. That's what I believe. Yeah.
Okay, so all right, one classic. So in my time when I was in my previous role, so obviously I'm the CEO and all this type of stuff, right? I had one employee that came to me and said, "Look, I think it's time I went out on my own, and the business that I'm going to be doing exactly the same as what I'm doing here. So essentially, you're going to look at it as that I'm competing against you, right? So obviously that got my attention, and I was like, okay, so what are you telling me?" And he said, "Look, um, without going forward, I'd really appreciate it if I could get your blessing." And I know it's a big one, right? Because we could be competing and all this kind of stuff. But I won't do it unless I get your blessing. Now, it could have been a situation where this guy went in, replicated, took all the business, you know what I mean, and became the new kid on the block, the new number one go-to. That could happen, right? But at the same time, out of the respect for the person, and the appreciation of the person actually coming to me, having like a grown-up conversation and saying, "Look, this is me telling you it's time for me to spread my own wings and create my own and fly," right? And to me, that meant more than any kind of monetary kind of situation at all. Now, this person did leave and this person did set up business. And this business today
It
is
compete you as
probably,
well.
yeah, competing. But at the same time, there was mutual competition or mutual respect. So if it was a business which we were dealing with, the mutuality was, "I can't touch that because it's one of yours. I can't touch that because it's one of yours," right? So we drew up a white paper, basically. And it lasted for as long as I was around. Now, the thing is, this business now has been going very successfully now for the past 6 years, right? And it's going from strength to strength. I still speak to them and, I'd still guide, mentor, advise, and all that type of stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah. And just imagine if it was a case where I got angry of the situation or ignorant about the situation or not understanding of the situation, who knows? It could have been, things could have ended up totally different, right? The business that I created may have gone out of business, may have suffered, or it could have gone from strength to strength. But then I would have lost the respect and appreciation of a fellow human being, of someone that I respected.
Yes.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's probably a good example, because on the back end of that, I was getting a lot of criticism by my actions. You know what I mean? How can you allow this to happen? Are you crazy? Are you mad? Right. But sometimes you have to go with this and you got to go with that.
Yes.
Right. My gut feeling is telling me one thing.
Yeah.
My head's telling me one thing, and it's telling me the same thing. In my head, it's telling me something totally different to like my heart and my gut.
Yeah.
And then I've got like I got a debate going on with myself, but everything just kind of just fell into sync, just fell into line. It told me that I'd done a good enough job to enable the people that I've guided to actually go out there and do their own thing.
Yeah.
And now these people, right, they are now leaders, right? They're leading their own teams. They're growing their own leadership teams. And and to me, looking back at it now you mention that, for me, looking back at it, it's a nice thing to look back on. Yeah. Because it means that
be proud.
You didn't block somebody else's growth path.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You didn't stumble their growth.
All right, I'm just gonna be run a pause outside there if this virtual hands. I show high respect to that, Rudee, and I have definitely the same sense of value, and I think you did such an amazing job on that because it was so hard for you. People are judging and whatever. However, it's funny that sometimes when we have a voice inside of us, knowing that we're doing the right thing, but there always be some voice that's gonna give us pressure, and it's hard for you to hold so tight and firm on the decision that you already made. And seriously, it's
Yeah.
not easy. I can imagine.
And just, that was a big one for me. But then just like little things like everyday stuff. I'll get it, there'll be competitors or even customers, trying to test the market. You know, you advise them on certain things. They'll take that advice and they'll either use it against you or they use it with you, right? And I think that's the risk you got to take. Because, for example, if I'm coming into your business and you're a potential prospect for me, I'm telling you how to do it. I'm telling you what you need to do. I'm giving you pricing, structure, everything, with the hope, without guarantee, that you're going to use my service. But then you might take that and say, oh, thank you very much, Rudee. I'll go to ABC down the road. I'm going to tell them exactly how you're doing what you're doing. I'm going to compare the pricing, and depending on what their moral obligation is, if their moral obligation is pricing over values, right? And then they depend which way they want to go. Now, again, I would get criticized for that because it's almost like you're giving away your secret weapon. But the thing is, if I'm not explaining what I do, then I'm not explaining what I do, right? So for me to explain what I do, there's no guarantee to win that business. But the way that I used to think was, if I win the business today, brilliant. If I don't win that business, you're going to be back. You will come back. That's my thought process.
Yeah. It's a long-term thinking. Always think for long-term. And the same story applied to mine quickly, really, is that when you have employees, sometimes they have things in life and seasons and they'll leave, but then they will come back to you if you treat them really well. And I have a few stories already. And that's the thing. You want them to be well. You don't want because you're selfish, you want them to work for you and then you just think everything for you. Because when you do that, they will be the same. It's like a mirror. Only when you think for others, you will be treated back the same way. And I like that. I
Yeah.
like the way how you do it.
But it's normal though, isn't it? So if you have successful employees, and particularly if they're in a sales and business environment, right? And you set certain targets, and say that target, I know, say the target is like this year, you need to bring in 10 million, right? And that 10 million revenue, they hit that 10 million in the first quarter, right? But you've already set the boundaries for that year. So then they could be like relaxing. So when it comes to the next year, you're like, right, that's going to be 20 million, right? So you set the bar higher, 20 million. So now that you're getting that person to work a bit harder. Now they may be earning commission wise, I don't know, 10% if you're lucky. Sometimes it might be a lot higher than that. But then that individual person is going to be sitting, I could be doing this for myself. Why am I doing it for this company when this guy is earning all the money and I'm doing all the work?
Mm.
To me, that's human nature.
Mm.
Because that's why I got into business.
Exactly.
Because I figured I can do this more efficiently, or I can do this better, or I've got another alternative solution to what I'm currently involved in. So at this particular time, I'm not thinking, oh, you're such a nice guy, I'll never leave you. I'm never going to work for any. I'm thinking, I could better myself on this.
Mm.
And at the same time, you're not going to begrudge me for wanting to better myself. So you got to put yourself in the position of that person, right? So because it's going to happen. Certain people are born to follow. Certain people are born to lead. Everybody's not a leader. Everybody's not a follower. But there's more followers than leaders, right? So when the leader comes in a different disguise, you have to recognize that.
Yeah.
Maybe not immediately, but you need to recognize
yes
the potential of that person and either work with or work against. The choice is yours.
Yes. And the wise
Yeah.
will choose work with. Thank you, Rudee. We run an hour session here now, but I have still 2 more questions for you. So
Go ahead.
the next one is, you are one of the co-authors in Logistics Legends book. What made you say yes to this project, and what message do you hope younger logistics leaders take from your chapter?
It was a simple decision, right? When I spoke to you about it and the vision that you had for it, I already had in my mind that I wanted to give back, but I just didn't want to. I didn't want to do the same old normal kind of just give back. You know, go in, do workshop and all this. I wanted to give back in a sense of
more seriously,
understand the person, understand the brand. You know what I mean? So if you understand me, then you understand where I've come from, what I've been through, the person that I am today, right? Because some people only see the end product. They don't understand what it's like to get to that product, right? So to me, you know, when you put the question to me, if I wanted to be involved, I was like, yeah, sure, right? Because already in my mind, I kind of like had some kind of idea of what I wanted to talk about, right? And to me, the easy part was talking about myself, because to me, I know all about myself. If you're telling me to make up some kind of story or whatever, that's going to be quite difficult, right? Because everything I do needs to be authentic. And I like to give like an authentic type of story in order to present the reality of today. Because you need to understand, like, definitely, I think the story touches on areas of modesty. There's some humbling experiences. There's some challenging experiences. There's some funny stories in there, right? So it's all like relatable kind of situations to real people, right? And for the younger generation, it's like sometimes you don't know where your passion lies. Sometimes you don't know where you really have like a niche, or where you have a superpower, right? And never be afraid to try. Never be afraid of rejection, because rejection is just a term of, okay, so I didn't do it this time, I'm going to try again.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't see anything as passing and failure. I see it as try and try again. And then if you still don't, then you got to try and try again. Only you can fail, in terms of you're the only person that can say, that's it, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, you gave up.
Do you understand what I mean? You know, because when they have like driving tests, you take your lessons, then you have your driving tests. You may pass your driving test, but you're still a learner driver. So you're still learning, right? To me, it makes no difference. You take your driving test, you fail your driving test. So what do you do again? You go for another driving test. You might pass the driving test, or you might fail, but then you go again, but you're still learning, because you've only had like maybe 24 driving lessons, and then you pass your driving test. Whereas you got this guy next to me, that's, you know, he's had 40 years of driving, and he's still not a good driver, right? So
it can be worse.
So
I agree with that.
Understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So never be afraid to try.
Yeah, I just want to conclude that. I think it's just like when you go to school, and when you graduate from school, you think your life is actually learning is over, but actually you just start learning in real life. School doesn't mean you actually are educated. The real education happens in real life, and that's what we do. Yeah. That's
like
right.
life experience, right?
Yes.
And so, like, you could have a university degree. You could come into a job and you have no experience at all. None. You feel, okay, I'm made for this job. And day number one, you feel as basic becomes. You have no clue, because you have no work life skills. You have university skills, but no real life work skills. And that goes the other way as well, right? You could come into a job straight from school and you have no clue. And again, you're preparing to learn. So either way, you're preparing to learn. It's all about learning. Because you passed the exam or you failed the exam, you still have to learn.
Yeah, so true. And Rudee, I love the conversation so far. However, I will invite you again for another season. I do finish this one. I still have one more fun question with you, just quick one. So something you don't expect it, right? You have to answer very quickly. You only have to answer one thing when I ask you. So it's like a game, all right? Let's do that. The audience will be like, what are you doing? That's the fun part. So when I say, ask you, tea or coffee is your favorite, you need to answer tea or coffee, right? Something like that. You get it?
Right.
Ready? The first question, tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Good. Next one. What's one song that always gets you in a good mood?
Redemption song.
Oh, nice, guys. You need to hear that. It's actually uploading on our channel. He sung really well. If you haven't found out, go and search. Next one. One word to describe your leadership style. One word.
Honest.
I thought it's free. Freestyle. I love that. Honest. Favorite place to unwind with your daughter and your wife. The favorite place
Home.
to unwind.
Home.
Home.
Home. Yeah.
I
always look forward to coming home.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Because you're always traveling, you never be home. You're networking king. Anyway, next question. If logistics didn't exist, what career would you have pursued? I know the answer.
Entertainment.
Yes. Bingo.
I'll be an entertainer. Yeah.
Rudee is so good at singing. I always said to him, I joked to him and said, you're in the wrong industry, but he's in the right industry. But he will be even better when he goes to the entertainment industry. If you are a director, whoever's watching, remember Rudee's here, grab him. It's such a waste he's not on the stage yet. He used to be. You can search for...
My days are long gone. You know, them days long gone. Anything now is just for fun.
Who knows? You'll always come back. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
what's the one that you told me? You told me that Colonel Sanders started his business at 65, and look how successful he is. Colonel Sanders, KFC, started his business at 65.
Yeah.
Right. So I still got time.
You're too young, Rudee. You're too young. You still have too much time to get started again. So Rudee, thank you for not just building a great business, but also for showing the world that leadership, mentorship, and community can go hand in hand in an industry often focused only on margins and metrics. At SGN, we believe real influence comes from building people, not just businesses. And today, you reminded us again what that looks like in real life. For our listeners, if Rudee's story moved you, imagine being part of a global network where legends like him are not just admired, but accessible. Join the waiting list. We are going to have an amazing thing coming up. Rudee knows. Don't forget to grab your copy of Logistics Legends Book Volume 1, where Rudee and other giants share stories you won't find on LinkedIn. Sometimes he shares a little bit, but you need to find the book. The link will be on the description. Until next time, stay legendary. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Christy.